Hi everybody, Beth here from Access Paranormal, sounding like she's talking through a tin can, so apologies to everybody. I do sound a bit nasally. I am still moving through this wonderful flu that was gifted to me by the people who attended the Oz Paranormal and Spiritual Expo. And not to say that don't ever go because you'll get sick, but yeah, it was great time. But unfortunately there was an extra gift in the gift bag called the flu. So I've had that many chemicals this evening that I might as well get the glow sticks out and start dancing. So anyway, apologies, I do sound slightly nasally and I may occasionally cough, so I do apologise for that as well as I move through this fantastic health issue. So UUOs and USOs, what is, as Beth taken too much medication, what do they mean? What do they stand for, and what does it mean when it comes to paranormal investigating, if anything at all? Now, when I posted this question, I had some great responses, obviously some funny ones as well, which I don't mind as well. There's a bit of tongue-in-cheek in there too, so thank you to everybody who posted their answers as well. As I do move through a bit more about what this actually is, again, do feel free to use the comment section down below for your thoughts or ideas or experiences too, because I believe there will be a couple of people that may have come across this or these particular types of experiences before as well, so please let me know too. Hi Karina, good evening. Hey Chrissy, good to see you here, lovely. So yeah, this is really interesting. So UUOs, now when it comes to the paranormal, if there's a U as an acronym, we can kind of safely assume it means unidentified. So for both these terminologies, that's one part that is definitely right. So that was the biggest one that people guessed, which was correct as well. Hi Nick. Oh, that's all right, Nick, you're still around, sweetheart. So that was one thing. So UUO, what is a UUO? It's an underwater unidentified object. Now I know someone had also said they knew what that was. And what it means is that there's something submerged constantly underwater that people don't really know how it got there and why it's there, and it's usually just in a very unusual shape, and it's constantly there. And so those who may have been watching the Low Files, I know that recently they went and investigated, I think it was Cruz Knoll, which is off the Californian coast, and I think it's only 6 miles from Miami or something like that. And they had, you know, those little sort of robot-y things with the camera, and they go down and have a look and all that sort of stuff. Now you're thinking, okay, so if it's an unusual shape, like how unusual does it have to be? Well, this particular one is a very strange shape because it's along rock formations, of course, you know, around the bed part of or the coastline of California. But it's strange because it's flat. It's just flat, and it sticks out, and it's flat, and it has like pillars or something as well. So it juts out from the coastline, and it just kind of has pillars out. And so, of course, a lot of people are thinking, well, what is that? Is that like a underwater alien base? Is it something, you know, the Nazis built? Is it a portal to another world? I mean, all different types of theories. It is a very strange shape. Now, I'm hoping that after this, what I'll be able to do, if you are watching this on Facebook, I'll post the coordinates so you can actually post and link that to Google Earth. And Google Earth will actually show you, because it gives you depths as well, not just the topography of the land, but also underneath. And you'll be able to actually see what it looks like. So, because at first you're thinking, well, big deal, but it actually does look kind of weird. It's just this weird flat thing. So obviously I'm thinking, okay, there's got to be an explanation for this. There has to be a reason or a possibility of this to be explained in some way. And one of them is the fact that it's called what they call a thrust fault. I'm trying to be really diplomatic here. So what that means is the fact that with the plates obviously moving, because I mean, it is the San Andreas fault there, is one of the most active volcanic areas, so not volcanic, so earthquake areas of the world. So, and there's, I mean, you talk to anybody, I've got family in LA that, you know, talk about it. It's just, you know, daily life kind of stuff. And so it's rocking and rolling all the time over there. Very, very, very small, obviously, most of the time, but obviously they get bigger ones. So the plates are moving, they clash, they shift up, and that's what this is actually, what they say this could be. It's actually a thrusting movement which has gone across the ground, pushed across, and because it's flat, it just sticks out. So remember, that part's a very volatile part of the world, and is always constantly moving, probably more than most part of the planet. So keeping that in mind, that could be an explanation for it. There have been experiences people have seen objects moving in and out of it as well. So there's a little bit of that going on, and that's why some people say, excuse me, that this could actually be something that could be more linked to a possible alien base, but it could actually be something that to do with the earthquakes around the Californian coast. Now, another one, if you're really intrigued by this, is another place called, it's actually in the Baltic Sea, and I think it's between Finland and Sweden, I think, so don't quote me on that. Very cold part of the world. But this particular one really intrigued me because it actually looks like the Millennium Falcon from Star Wars. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. And I did some research and get out, it totally does. So I'm like, so I can understand why people would actually look at that and go, oh yeah, I could, maybe it is something from outer space. Maybe it is something that it could be, a sort of a crashed UFO or anything like that. Now, this only had been discovered in 2011. And what had happened when the boat went over it, the electronics in the boat actually started to falter and failed. And then when it's actually moved away from being directly above it, the electronics in that boat actually started to work again. So that was one of that's when they first found it. I'm not sure about any sort of reports since then about any other boats having the same issue at all. But that's a couple of things that they had there as well. Again, I'd like to look at sort of, maybe how something like that could actually be formed in that part of the world. One of the theories, it is actually a glacial rock. So obviously being a very, very cold part of the world millions of years ago, glacial rocks underneath, it explains the flatness and the shape of the actual land as well, the shape of it itself. Excuse me, slightly dying. I'll die quietly. And you'll notice too is when you actually look at the images, there's it's kind of it's like it's been pushed. So you'll see a dragging as well. And of course, some people say it looks like an alien ship that's been dragged across, or it's actually more the fact that it's actually drifted over time due to all the currents of the sea and stuff like that. Hi, Kat. Hey, Gary. Oh, it would be very interesting to look at, Karen. Totally would be. It's like if oh my gosh, I had the time and money. Now I'd be everywhere looking at this kind of stuff. It's fascinating. So yeah, obviously they take samples of these particular locations as well to obviously check with it too. Most of the time it's rock that's not common to the area, but it's common to the planet. So it's very unusual for it to be there, but it's obviously something that it really is an anomaly in the Earth, let alone anomaly from the shape of it as well. So that's one thing too. Now, what is a USO? Again, you can have all these fun interpretations of that, and they did come up, which was great. But a USO is an unidentified submerged object, and it is different to a UUO. So a UUO is constantly underwater, and it's fixed to the ground or fixed to a surface. A USO is something that actually goes into the water or is coming out of the water. So it's submerged in or submerged out. So as you can imagine, a lot of people who witness possible UFO activity see a lot of that, where there's lights. I know of somebody who's actually seen here in Sydney, excuse me, a UFO actually with lights come out from under the water. They actually saw lights underwater and actually saw it coming up and out with the lights then shining and then zip back up into the sky. So whatever that could be, I do not know. No, they weren't on anything, and I do know this person. So that's one thing as well. Sorry, I just thought it was my cat. She sometimes comes in, being elderly, they get a bit bossy. So that's one thing as well. So that it's something that's moving either into the water or moving up from the water. Now, if you're looking at possibly studying something like this, you can imagine that you're dealing a lot with personal experiences. And that can be a bit difficult because it's harder. The phenomena itself is much shorter. So you're actually looking at it from a point of view where whatever's going to be happening is happening for a much shorter time. You've only got that certain amount of time to actually try and gather what information you can. You're dealing either, most of the time, probably with people that have experienced it too. So as apart from UUOs, where it's there all the time, you can go back and have a look at it, test it out, all that kind of stuff. If we all were cashed up and we could do it, that's what we probably would be doing. But with USOs, it's a lot more difficult to try and debunk. So I haven't found a lot of different ways in which some of this can actually be explained, apart from the usual, what the person was doing at the time, what they thought it was, visual pareidolia type style stuff, matrixing, all that kind of thing. But really interesting because there are so many different reports about this type of phenomena all around the world. Now, the first particular report I was able to find was one Christopher Columbus actually was the first reported of a USO, And you can imagine too, back in the day where people were sailing across to different lands and finding different new places to settle, the things that they would actually see. Now, he said he'd seen something moving east-west, north-south, and zipping around in exorbitant sort of, speeds. And, today's we can go, it could be a satellite, it could be this, it could be that. Well, what could it be back then? It's less likely to be those types of things that we would know in modern day society. But we've also got to keep in mind that a lot of the stuff that hadn't been discovered or explained has been done so since Christopher's time. So that's something to keep in mind. But yeah, first reported cause, reported one was Christopher Columbus. There's also another place in Wales called Puffin Island. And this case really intrigued me a little bit when I came across it, was because not only do people report seeing USOs come up and go in to the water, but abductees around the area have all been told that there is actually something underwater that is based there. So that's something I thought was extremely unusual, because that's not often the case. So it's almost like, people, whatever alien life forms that these people are having these experiences and abducting from, is actually being told, there is something underneath here. So fascinating stuff. So there was that's in Wales. There's also a couple of, there's a lot of, I think it was in 1995 in New Zealand in the South Island. There was a spate in about 6 months where there was lots and lots of sights of objects going into the water with orange and white lights, and objects coming up from the water with orange and white lights. So they've also had that as well. I found this case, though, probably the most intriguing was a lake in Siberia, and it's called Baikal, I think it is, or Baikal. And it's meant to be the deepest lake in the world. And a lot of the Russian military would actually do their diving exercises there many years ago. And they would actually witness a lot of the activity from objects going into the water and objects coming back out. And in this one particular time, they actually saw a massive, they called it the mothership. So obviously they'd gotten used to seeing this type of phenomena and actually distinguished this as being the mothership, had gone into the water while they were diving and sped off at an alarming speed that could not be done in underwater as we would know it. And so they obviously, the people that were with them at the time said, you need to go and find out what this is, because we are doing a military operation. We need to know what's going on. So obviously they climbed back up onto the boat. They went in the direction of where this particular object went into. They went into the water, they went searching, and they said they found what was a sonic or sonar wave, I think it was, they said. They felt the sonar wave go through some of them. There were 7 of them that were underneath and diving in the water. 3 of them apparently died. 5 of them actually came up to the surface, hopped in the boat and left, and then reported it to the military peeps at the time. So that's one of the reports. Again, I take it with a grain of salt. I can't see anything factual too much about it, but if that did happen, if that was the case, that's pretty intense situation to happen for anyone, let alone for Russian military as well. Yeah, it is pretty intense, isn't it, Nix? So I did try and find to see if I could look, is there any reliable research? Is there any reliable books I could find? I found very little. There's lots of scattered stories here and there, a lot of witnesses, a lot of news reports as well. There's a lot of news reports of people witnessing certain things too. So I can't really provide anything as far as any further reading if it's something that you are interested in. But do just have a look at it. Those particular places like the Baltics and New Zealand and in California, and there's all different types of reports all around the world. But it's UUOs and USOs. So have a look under those different terms and see what you can come up with and sort of pull some information together. And again, if you find some really great stuff, pop it in the links in the comments section below. I'm really interested to see what you find too. You might actually find stuff I haven't been able to come across yet, or somebody else too. So would love to know what your thoughts are. Thank you so much for watching and listening to me gravel on through a tin can. Until the next week. Thanks, guys.